Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Word is Your Wand, the podcast that is created to bring awareness to how our words create our reality and how, in a moment, we can change everything simply by changing our words. Whether we're speaking them out loud or we're saying them to ourselves in the silence, they are still creating magic. And as we begin, my name is Carrie Mushaw, and I am your anxiety coach. And this is my business partner.
Hello, Andrea Alexander, and I am your anxiety coach also.
And as we begin, we always enjoy beginning with breath. And we're going to go ahead and bring our guest in, and then we're going to go ahead and walk through our beautiful beginning as we set this sacred container. And today joining us is going to be Megan Covington. Welcome, Megan. So as we begin, we enjoy creating this sacred space, and we begin with our breath. So wherever you are, walking, listening, driving, take a big breath. Everyone inhale really big and exhale through your mouth. So as we're remembering this morning, our inhalation is our act of receiving. And as we open up the gateways to receive all of our miracles, we begin by empowering our breath. With all of that in mind, inhale really big once again. Here we go. Bring it all in. And then exhale through your mouth, long and slow. We're remembering that our exhalation is our act of letting go. Big receive. Here we go. Inhale big. One more time. And exhale, letting go. Awesome. And the next part of our beginning is always our decrees. Decree a thing and it shall be, as we begin to continue, or as we use these tools to continue setting our container. Andrea, will you walk us through some decrees this morning?
Yes, and decrees are similar to affirmations, yet they are created in many times from in I am statements, which is I am that which I say I am. And because Carrie and I play in the power of words, and our words create our reality, our decrees begin to support ourselves in creating new neural pathways into reclaiming, igniting our heart choices. And so if you'll place your left hand over your heart, I speak out loud into me.
I speak out loud into me.
God speaks through me, into me, and around me.
God speaks through me, into me, and around me.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Light I am.
Me, love me.
Me, love me. Awesome. I love that the first thing that you put out there was God speaks through me. And my experience lately is it's the remembering of putting down trying. Because when it speaks through us, all the effort is left behind?
It's speaking from our heart. It's direct, it's sovereign, it's direct communication with our choices. And it's where we use our will to speak through us rather than based on what we think.
Which is that big try. Think and try. The T's, they go together. So Megan, I met Megan at a networking event in Georgetown, remembering. And we connected immediately. Andrea, this is the first time Andrea has met her. She speaks the language of neural pathways and all of the subconscious thoughts and using your words. And I love that. But Megan, will you take a moment and just introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do? Because you have a couple things going on there. They're all intertwined.
Yes.
But there's two definitely things that I'm aware of, both very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. I, like you just shared, I do multiple things. I haven't defined myself as any one particular thing because there's so many things I enjoy doing, and I can incorporate all of those tools into whatever I decide to do. Currently, I'm a mother, I am a wife, I'm a sister, daughter, I'm a friend, my best friend, me, and I'm a ketamine nurse, so I work with ketamine, and I also do embodiment yoni, or can I say pussy on here? Pussy practices. So movement of energy through strengthening your pelvic floor and remembering what it feels like to be in love with yourself without all the shame that you may have accumulated on your own physical structure or in your muscles. And yeah, so I do all that.
This is why I kept it quiet beforehand, because I knew Andrea was going to have that exciting
I am
face.
so
looking forward. I was like, I'm going to keep it to myself what Megan does, so that Megan can just show up.
Well, I got so excited. I just was recently playing with something, and one of the things I said to myself was, who taught me my value was in my vagina? And so I really desire to create some space and have some really amazing conversations with women about exactly what you're speaking into, the pleasure and what's keeping us from it, and these conversations about our bodies, our guilt, our shame, and all the stuff that we were taught.
Well, let's do it right now. Let's talk about it.
Let's begin.
Yes, because
so
Megan and I already started this conversation, and it was so powerful.
And so what was your first awareness to the embodiment and the yoni? And we can say that yoni is vagina. We can say that it's pussy if that's the word that you choose to use, and whatever that is for anyone, because it's that belief in that it's dirty and that I choose to eradicate and move.
Yeah. Liberate.
Yes. Because we've been taught that it was a dirty spot, that it was only for one thing. And that
isn't that crazy?
Yes, and it allows us to create. It allows us to create everyone on the planet. Kind of powerful.
Kinda. Just
everyone on the planet is here because of a vagina. Everyone. Yeah.
And the pleasure. Go ahead.
And yet, yet we're shying away from saying it, or we find all these other. I'm just aware of being raised and finding all these other nicknames because we didn't want to say like the clinical term vagina, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's just the tiptoe around the language of sexuality when it's how we all got here, and it's how it's going to continue. So let's go ahead and speak into it and allow people to find their power within it, because it's the hiding of it that's creating the shame, the compulsions, the erratic behaviors that people are wrapping around it. That's my belief.
Yeah, I mean, if you were taught that your hands were dirty and shameful, would you cut them off and no longer use them? Would you shame yourself and hide them behind your back? Well, this is just as much a part of your body, your pussy, as anything else. It's just as much a part of you to be loved, cherished, honored, and have a deep reverence with, whether it's by yourself or with a partner. And the best way to love yourself is to know yourself and know the things that feel good for you. Because if you're in a relationship, whether it's with another woman or a man, or you have multiple partners, there's no judgment here. How do you express to people or a singular person, the things that you enjoy when you don't even know, and sometimes you don't even recognize why you don't like it, except you've been shamed for it because something felt good and somebody told you it was wrong. Like, I have two beliefs. It always has to be consensual. It has to be consensual with however many partners you have. It has to be consensual, 100%. And another thing is have a good line of communication, because not only like embracing your sensual, sexual, spiritual embodiment practices is being able to communicate clearly with your partners of things that you do and don't enjoy, or things that you're willing to explore and with each other. So I love that you said that about the words of our pussy, and I say pussy, but you get a lot of people that will cringe and recoil from that word itself. My dad, my sweet dad, and this is a lot of generational ancestral upbringing that we tag onto ourselves, and claim as our own. But my dad's like, honey, when you say pussy, my whole skin, all I see is my mom coming at me with the switch. And I'm like, I'm sure, because those were things you didn't talk about. Yeah. He's like, we just didn't talk that way. And so
if he used the word, she would punish him.
Oh, absolutely. So it's not just women.
Yeah,
it's not just women that get punished for their own body part, but for men talking about it. And it's so interesting to me. Yeah. So we are seeing those generational breakdowns. And that's the beauty of every generation, is we're seeing things change. We're seeing people own up and love themselves more, and not being so strict to, if you will, doctrine of what's right or wrong. They're going internally and asking themselves, which I think is incredibly powerful, because that is where my kingdom lies, is in my own heart. So.
Awesome. And how did you get into
this? I'm like,
I love it. Thank you.
What happened that brought you here?
Okay, so honestly, I had already delved into it's quite a long story, and I will tell you that yoni practices were more at the tail end of me developing my own spiritual sense of self, getting to know myself better. And I actually started doing yoni pussy practices as curiosity for myself. What does this feel like? I know what these sensations feel like in my hands that are like a vibration around my body field. I know, like, I can feel it pulsate. I can guide the energy around my body. Well, let's do it from the inside. Let's pull that energy from the pussy up the spine to the crown. Let's move. We're that powerful to move the energy. And when I do pussy practices, it always has an intention. Even if it's as simple as like this energy field that's like coming out of me is going and anchoring in with the earth for it to be felt for the goodness of all. So yeah,
I am amazed. And so what I heard, what I had yet to even play with the power, and that I can direct energy from any place in my body, whatever that may be, whether it's my heart or my pussy, into something, into another area. I got so hot when I said, like, took great will to say that, into anything or in any other area of my body. And it's the place of all creation in us. And I'm aware that I've been taught that we can direct our breath. We can direct energy anywhere. And so this new, from the pelvic floor of our being, the space of all creation on earth,
And
we draw the energy.
And in the chakra realm, I mean, that is your second chakra. That is the first place you learn duality.
And just the amount of intensity that when you love, like, let's talk unconditional love. I'm not talking judgmental love. I'm talking like, I can sit here in front of this camera to you ladies. I could say it to a freaking world. I love myself and I love my pussy. And I love my pussy so much that when I do yoni practices, my heart and yoni are, to me, all the chakras are always connected. It's a belief system of how we think we need to move things. And that's however you want to set it up. But when you move this energy, it is an explosive, ongoing, orgasmic pleasure that it will hit peaks and waves and then height again. It's to me, it is like what some people would consider called edging. So you have an orgasm, but you don't quite just let it all out. And then you build higher. And like for myself, my energy field, I can feel it grow massively. And as I'm just like, because here's the thing, if you're in a real orgasm, like, let's not say this, oh yes, thank you, this is, oh, not one of those like fakey ones. Your thoughts are nowhere but in that pleasure and enjoyment. How powerful is that energy? You don't have time to be like thinking about, oh, this is not working for me, when you are right there. And if you know how your body works and what feels good for you, like, again, you can teach your partners that, and they can teach you things about them as well. It's, don't personalize it. It's a mystery, and it can be experimental and fun. It doesn't have to be all rigid and confined and like, you suck, you did this and that didn't feel very good. No, you say, you know what? Hey, let's try this. Could you go a little slower? Maybe a little faster. It's never the same. Like, there are definitely things that we enjoy more than others, but it's never the same on how you feel from one exploration to the next.
You're your own guide. And so what I hear is so much of how we require knowing ourselves to have those conversations. And my belief is what women have experienced is they don't know, because if you were shamed and you weren't supposed to talk about it, you definitely weren't supposed to feel it. So if you were trying to figure it out, you're going to be playing with it in isolation or with your partner. If you're not communicating with yourself, then how are you going to communicate to someone else? And that, I can hear that, and I'm aware that I've been aware of that in the world and what we've seen. But how did you actually come into this? I hear you got curious, but where did you
Okay, so I just got curious.
Hey, let's get connected to my pussy. Where is that?
I got really curious about yoni eggs themselves, which are crystals.
Yes.
And the crystals, like, they're a reflection of yourself, whether it's a rose quartz, a jade egg, and you don't have to use those things, but I enjoy them because I like the weight difference. I like the different techniques that I can use to strengthen my pelvic floor. However, if you choose to use nothing, or you choose to use an energetic egg that you set an intent about, even if there's no egg there whatsoever, your invisible energetic egg, like, you can still feel that. You can actually have a physical, tangible egg, or you can have your imagination egg. And because some women actually are more numb in their pelvic floor, and I encourage them, like, don't give up. Don't berate yourself for the numbness. It does happen. Have grace, because we need to give ourselves more grace. So how I came into this is out of curiosity. I'm like, why not? Why not try these exercises? Why not see what happens for myself? And it literally became a practice for me. And at the same time, I also noticed like my vibrancy escalated massively. My pleasure for life, which was already really high, like my quote is, pleasure is my intimate relationship with life. How it expanded for me is that it wasn't just my yoni practices that made me feel orgasmic. It was, and this even happened prior, this just amplified for me doing yoni practices, is the feel of the sun on my face, the tickles of the grass on my feet. Like, I'm telling you, it begins, appreciation leads to joy. And that's, I mean, I just started appreciating more. And I really feel like appreciation is such a powerful energy that we don't use that often. And even if you, let's say you do a yoni practice and you don't have an orgasm, because you don't have to have an orgasm every time. It's a practice. It's an honoring. It's your temple. And you say, I appreciate this work I did with myself, not even work, this practice of pleasure that I did with myself. I mean, constantly reinforcing all of these appreciative things and how you're supported in so many ways that maybe you weren't aware of. It's like these rose-colored glasses fall off. Well, I'm going to say these dark-ass shades fall off, and you start to see the pleasure in existence.
And that's, Andrea and I, we have worked with so many clients, and we worked with divine body language, and we find so many people, the relationship they have with their body is pain.
Yeah.
And the opposite of pain is pleasure, exactly like you're saying.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
And when you say pleasure, they're like, huh? Like it's just like you said, if you're looking through the lens of pain, you'll see pain. You'll feel the world that way. You'll believe the world is coming that way and everything is painful. And so what I'm hearing is even more of because what we've witnessed, when people ignite their pleasure and they're aware and they step into pleasure, they start to feel sensations. We've had clients look at their body and go, my God, it's like the first time I felt my arm.
Yes.
And it's that massive awakening of pleasure, which opens all of your senses, and you are here for life. We were designed for pleasure. We were created to experience pleasure. And that's what I'm hearing. It's all of the igniting and amazing.
I remember sitting at a table with other coaches at a Christmas event a couple of years ago. And one of the girls across from me said something, and I just said, my body is my pleasure. And she was like, we had yet to embrace that our bodies are for pleasure. And we have had pleasure, our bodies as intimacy as sexual. And the number of women who have experienced body shame through conscious media, conscious, as part of the collective consciousness of media, TV, that along those routes, and then also from our parents about dieting, and then those women who have experienced sexual trauma on some level, whatever that may be, that pleasure was not something to be had by our bodies. And what I heard you say also, you said certain areas there, and our pussy, our vagina is an area that we have believed was for creation only, or had some negative beliefs connected to it. And the subconscious mind has no clue about a vagina or an arm or a hand. And so if we're hating one part of our body or shaming one part of our body, we are shaming all of us. And Carrie beautifully speaks into, we can't love part and then not the other part. The brain, it doesn't know the difference. It just says, oh, she doesn't love me. Oh, she doesn't love me. Oh, she doesn't love me. And so I recently have, and my personal experience was I had suppressed sexual trauma as a child. And so as I moved through that and remembered my purity and my innocence, and then I have stepped into letting go. And what I did is I created fat as a way to stay safe. And when I stepped into my secure body being seen in front of others, and as my body began to transform, I have stepped into loving how I feel myself. Literally feel myself, my hands on my own body. And it's even, I will, as I go into sleep, I will pat on my leg, on the top of my thigh, this little heartbeat kind of thing. And I feel it through my entire body. And it is an I love you to me. And I'm aware of waking up and just literally touching me, running my hands across my breast or my stomach, or even putting my hands into my panties and just patting myself, because it's all of me is perfect. No matter how I feel, all of me is perfect. And this is so joyful for me. And I'm excited.
Yes.
Well, the retreat that Andrea is speaking of, so the retreat that we do was designed originally, My Body is My Blessing. And one of the things we have people do is we have them trace their bodies, and we have them write down all of their traumas. And so when they write a list of their traumas and then where their trauma is in their body, because we're aware of how we've, like I said, shut that down. Like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to talk about that. That's injured. That's that. This is the part I don't like. And so playing with those things actually uncovered deep-rooted beliefs that were affecting their whole lives. It's all just where we were yet to, like Andrea said, that shutting down, you can't shut down part of your body. I mean, I share with people that your brain is like a computer system. So if you're going to say, like, I don't like my dad, or I don't want to talk about my dad, well, that's 50% of your body right there. You just said 50% of your DNA. You're not even looking at the right side of your body. You don't even want to address the right side of your body. And so being able to be aware that, oh no, well, I was just talking about that one thing. Your mind doesn't understand that. Your subconscious says, we're shutting this baby down. And so we're not going to touch that side. We're not going to be. And so even in your vagina, that right side of your clitoris and everything, I imagine, is shut down. And just not even activating the energy that is available was designed there to create more energy and love and pleasure in your entire life. Because again, your mind knows no difference.
Yeah,
That's
cells are cells.
powerful.
Yeah, cells are cells. And it's a really good reminder. They are, cells are cells. And it's a really good reminder that even with our traumas, and I'm not dismissing trauma or pain, but there's an opposite end to that. So when you're so hyper focused on the trauma or pain that you're experiencing, well, have you ever considered to ask yourself, what does the opposite side of that look like? And have you ever like shifted gears and focused over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because trauma absolutely does not.
Because that's what Carrie.
Yeah,
that's what we do,
Exactly.
because
And
we're
that's what
saying,
Carrie
why did you have
was
the
like.
experience? Because when you have the experience, when we find out the reason, and Andrea and I's belief is we're here actually for the great return. If we were an expert on pain in our body, we are here to be the expert on pleasure in our body. That's the fact.
Yes.
And so we can stay in the trauma that kept us in that pain, or we can realize I know so much about pain because my return is
Yes.
so much about pleasure. I am the pleasure expert.
So much about pleasure.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, just you worded that beautifully. Of course, your word is your wand. You know, your pain can be a really great teaching tool if you allow it to be. It's as simple as that. It really can. You can be
Yes,
just by offering yourself that permission to say, I recognize this pain. You don't have to ruminate on the story of the trauma or the pain. You don't have to sit there and ruminate. You can recognize the emotions that are in your body, but you don't have to continue to apply a story to them. You can recognize those emotions and those feelings and love them as part of you, because
yes.
all of it is a part of you. Your body is a massive antenna, and it's here to seek out whatever you're choosing to create for yourself. So what do you want to create, creator?
I love that, because yes, we Carrie and I play with every feeling has a partner feeling. So if it's grief, on the other side of grief is joy. If it's shame, on the other side of that, there's innocence. If it's guilt, it's purity. And so there's a partnership and there is an outcome. And we all believe that we're here for grace, for ease, and we are, yet we're expecting, which diminishes returns, that it's going to just come with no chaos, no disappointment.
Right.
And it is only through some kind of challenge or suffering that we find our purpose. And so we play in the trajectory of the energy. We meet the energy. So if you've been, like Carrie said, and if you've been here and experienced great pain in life, when you will love what you have experienced and find the gold in that is where you begin to experience great pleasure. And that's what Carrie and I do, is we support people, our clients, in understanding what created the pain, what really created the pain, and how it's in your body, where it came from, what was the experience, so that we can to let it go and step into many layers and levels of pleasure that we are here to experience in all of life.
All of life. Love that.
Yeah, there's no
All of life.
It's that whole thing where people go, well, I'm a mother over here, and then over here I'm a friend over here, and then at work I'm somebody else over here. No, you're not. That's called split personalities. That's not who you are.
Those are just identifications of things that you're doing in your life experience.
Yes, people and what people are talking about is believing they're wearing these different hats and believing they are these different people when they show up, and we're one person. And when we show up in that one entity to everyone, well, it's authentic and it's possible. That's what it's possible. And I mean, because it's just another way that we've run from our bodies and our one self. And it's being able to realize that we can show up as one and be received in that same forum. Wow. So how do you teach these things? Do you teach meditations? Do you do exercise? What do you do?
Okay. So I work privately with our client. I almost said patients. Wrong hat. No, I'm kidding.
Where's my hat? Oh man, I usually always have hats in here. No hat.
I do private coaching. I haven't done any recent retreats, but I have done some retreats. I've been a participant as a teacher in some retreats, and we go over breath. We start simple. Like, it's so simple to we talk about the breath, and breath is life, and every intake and out is a birth and a death. That's breath. So you're constantly regenerating yourself. So even just being aware of And I'm not even using breath as a means to accomplish something. It's just a way to relax, feel into yourself, be curious about sensations that might come up in your body. We talk about permission, giving permission to ourselves. Our body is being devoted to yourself, and whatever devotion looks like for you. Like I literally keep an altar, if you will, in my house, and it's my appreciation altar. And whatever I feel pulled to add onto there, or when I completely change it out, that's my place where I go and do my prayers or my quiet time or meditation, or just get to look at the altar and appreciate the altar and all of the things that are on there. So we talk about ways to bring in tangible activities of reminder as you're creating those new neural pathways instead of the ones that you've been writing. And we eventually lead into, it depends on the group and where they're at. Some will go right into straight yoni practices, because there are some people that don't have a lot of trauma. They've accepted their trauma. Everyone in the world has trauma. And I typically don't have a lot of women that are really submerged in trauma. They've already worked through those parts, and they're more into the curiosity of heightening the way they feel even more so, and being more being consciously aware at how expansive consciousness is when you allow it to be seen. And that is, with your body, with partners, with nature, with the air. It's like everything, once again, spills over into this pleasure cup. Your body is the chalice. Let's fill it up, And so we'll go over those kind of practices as well. So yeah, big appreciation practices, sensation practices, like with food. We'll use food for an example. I mean, how many people are just literally shoving food in their mouth? Been guilty many times. And I don't want to say guilty. It just was what I did. And so I'm not going to beat myself up for it. But when I'm like, yum, yum, bless, bless for my tum tum, this food is, right? And take the time to feel the textures and the sensations in your mouth and what it feels like to go down your throat, and chew it slowly and be grateful for it. I don't care if you're a vegan, you're a carnivore, whatever you choose to eat, just love it. Do you know that energy that you're putting into that offering that's on your plate is felt and received in this quantum field of life? So yeah, so those are quite a few practices that we do. We have all kinds of stuff.
Yes, and when you're moving through it fast, because I'm aware of meditations for eating, and when we move through it so quickly, we're unaware of the chewing and the swallowing and the giving to ourselves that it provides, nurturing and energy and fuel. But it's to, when we suck it in, we're just, where you have to honor where it came from. So how would you honor it in your body? I mean, it's just,
yes,
it's such a great thing.
And is our reluctance to let in what we've received.
That's a good one.
And yet to enjoy what we have given ourselves, and yet to receive what we are giving ourselves in that fast pace.
Yeah, because we are a huge ecosystem. I know humans, we think we're so quick to dismiss all the life on this earth, which are trees, which are birds. I could go on and on and on and name it all, but we're the mushrooms, the fungus in the ground. We're part of a ecosystem. It's not just humans. So have some reverence for all of that ecosystem and how we play together. We do this dance of life together, and be a participant in the thrill that we get to be here on this planet during this time and enjoy such pleasurable activities in our lives. As simple as having a conversation with somebody, having a intuitive, if you will, hit of like, I want to call my mom and just let her know how much I appreciate and love her. These are not only is that support, that's appreciation, that's playing into the quantum field of, life and the ecosystem of the earth. When you walk on the grass or you get your hands dirty in the dirt, do you feel the texture of the dirt when you're planting? Do you appreciate that this dirt is going to cultivate a garden for you, just like you're doing with your mind, thoughts, words, and actions? They all play out together.
Yes. I'm very aware. And because like even earthing, when you put your feet on the ground, because there's so many times where now everybody has shoes on when they go outside. And it's like, if you will I just remember one of my coaches said, we were on a retreat. She said, I challenge you every day to walk to the mailbox and back barefooted. And this one woman was like, and then she's like, oh, now I started doing it. And I noticed difference, because it's another way that we disconnect from the earth, which is disconnect from being grounded, which is security.
Yeah.
Which is what we all require to be. So many different tools like that are absolutely amazing. Okay, so I know you sent me on your email how people could connect with you, but will you give it to me again right here so I can go ahead and type it in?
Absolutely. It's Megan Covington. Oh, this is my webpage, megancovington.com. There's a discovery link on there that will email me directly to set up a free discovery call to see, and we can put a pleasure plan together that's unique for you.
I love that, a pleasure plan. And when you first came in, you mentioned ketamine. And so will you speak into that a little bit, how they're currently using ketamine for people who've experienced different things in life?
Oh gosh, let me briefly speak on this. I don't know if I can do it. I'll do it as quick as I can. Typically how it works is they like to do 6 consecutive sessions for people. That's still out for studies as to why, but we are seeing with that consistent 6 sessions, I feel like it's a buildup of the it's going over the glutamate receptors. But I literally have watched people that are in some pretty deep PTSD. We're talking war vets. We're talking child abuse. We're talking rape victims. We're just talking people that have just overall generalized anxiety about things. Within I'll say the first session, some people are like, because they come in not knowing what to expect because it's the unknown, right? But as they progress forward, I'll watch people that have been in like a victim triangle as well, radically it's a dusting off of your perception. It literally it dissociates you from your body enough to not you feel the emotion, but you don't become the emotion. You allow it to pass through. And the one thing that I invite the clients to do when they do have something that may be uncomfortable is, as humans, we're so quick to push pain away or uncomfortable feelings away instead of just inviting it in to be felt and transmutated. Literally it's transformed within moments. And so how does ketamine work? It works on the glutamate receptors in the brain and in the gut. And so you're always having this hyper firing of certain thought patterns. Well, it shuts it down. It gives it a little reprieve, if you will, in the dissociation part. And then it's an offering to look through different windows. And, there's consecutively pretty much 3 things I've noticed with clients. They're either in the cosmos, they are either underwater, which I call, which to me is part of being in a womb. And then there's pure blackness. And when I say blackness, because some people I'll sketch about that. It's like this velvety, soft, still place. To me, that's the idea of the primordial womb of birth, like just silence. and there's a lot of introspection that comes from any of these places. Those are just 3 that I've noticed pretty consistently in this collective field of beautiful humans. But there's so many other ways. Some people have guides that will come through, or ancestors that have crossed over and communicate with them. It's some will feel themselves as all and understand, be invited to understand that that's where they came from. And not only do they come from that purity, they are that.
So what I'm hearing is that the ketamine gives them space and place to slow down enough to be aware of what is actually acting. It's like, so they can view it rather than be in it.
Yes.
So it gives to be conscious of what happened. And then it's also similar to other psychedelic remedies that people are speaking into, such as ayahuasca, LSD, psilocybin, that supports to go the route that supports them in being connected to their own subconscious, as viewing participant rather than a in the moment participant. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And in doing
so when we get to be, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. When we get to be,
when they get to choose to remember what I was going to say, and it's okay. Just that what I remember is that it gives us, it allows us to view what happened and be, so that we can change how we feel about what we felt.
Exactly. I can give you, if I may, do we have a moment? I can give you a really beautiful example. There was with no names given. We had this amazing client that had gone through some child abuse. And this is an older gentleman, and quite a bit older. And he had his 6 sessions. And on his very last session, like some people will choose to talk about their experience, some of them won't. He never once brought up his father during the 5 sessions. But on his 6th session, he said to me, he's been in every single one of my sessions with me, but I pushed him away. And then I remembered the invitation to invite in the pain. And he goes, and everything, it was like I had this flood of unconditional love, this flood of knowing things that he went through and experienced, and what, created his life to be the way it was, and how I was a byproduct of a loved byproduct that experienced things that he had, the father did to him. He's like, but I don't even feel angry. All I can feel is love. And he's like, why wasn't this available to me 40 years ago? Anyways, so he was able to have a reconciliation with his father, who is dead, has crossed over along, out of the physical body, had that reconciliation with him through the entire journey, and was able to be graceful enough with himself, be courageous enough to look at it and be a part of it and participate in it, and have it completely reframed out of the purity of his own divinity. And it's not like it's not like acceptance of like, there is a little bit of acceptance of the experience. You accept the experience, but it feels radically different. It's like what I said earlier, your trauma does not define who you are. It's your relationship with the trauma that you can transform it. So,
and people often believe that forgiving and reframing, that they'll often believe that means you're saying what happened was okay.
Yes. And you're not.
And we're not, no.
No.
We're just here to forgive because what was done because of something they learned, and because of something they learned. There's a big yet to know how to love, and trying to figure it out based off of what somebody else taught them. And when we have that understanding, we're able to, when we are willing, we can forgive. And when we forgive, we can reframe the relationship inside of, and that's what I'm talking about is, yes, that person's crossed over to the other side, but that relationship still exists inside of you. You
Very
still
much.
feel the energy of that. It's still alive, and it's how you practice love now. Is he abusing someone? No. But there may be some, like, not letting it in. And when we're able to reframe and allow the energy of what had happened to us through this person, forgiving them, and reframe it inside of us, we shift the energy inside of us, and we take down the walls that have kept love away, and we allow love to come fully in. But the question I have is that you said, he said, I remembered to invite the pain in. Where did he get that information?
To invite the pain in.
Mm-hmm.
It was through a conversation that I had with him before his last session of, hey, if you feel something uncomfortable in your sessions, instead of pushing it away, invite it in.
Awesome. That's what I was asking, because I know that sometimes people sign up for modalities and treatments and they just sit there, and we're experiencing some sort of partnership with something. But if we don't have any coaching beforehand,
Right.
we're still in our where we are. And so what to do with the new information from the state that we have been living life. And that didn't really get you very far. I mean, it gets you a little bit. What my experience with that is, it gets you a little bit of ease, and then you don't know what to do with it. So that's why I asked, because somebody told him that. So awesome that's being able to give that to them beforehand, and being able to discuss when they're willing, how that's really creating larger segues.
Yeah. And like anything that we do, if it's incredibly helpful to have a support system, whether it be a ketamine integration coach, or an embodiment coach, or a therapist, or a psychiatrist, whatever it is that works for you. But I think that that's important, because there have been some, there are occurrences that people may not quite understand, and might still loop into a fear modality of it, instead of like recognizing that this is a visual that you possibly received because you're continuing to run away from the truth of what you're telling yourself.
Yeah. And what's happened is, for so many people, and PTSD is a classic example of, we have an experience somewhere in life where it was overwhelming for us, and we can only comprehend and handle so much of it. And so some of it's in our brain, and then some of it is in our body, maybe unknown. And so the PTSD is where we have yet to, we're being triggered, and anxieties, we're being triggered again and again and again, because we had yet to be able to have the tools to handle what we felt. And we've played and stayed in the pain of what happened, because it was so hurtful in the moment. And what many of us have done, and I include this in myself, and it's one of the ways I've moved through, is I remembered I lived, and that I was required to be with the feelings that I experienced, and that those feelings had no longer really had any power, except the power that I was giving them to keep me and take me out, because I'd already lived. We recently, in my family, had the experience of my mother coming down some stairs, and She could have died. She could have died. Everybody was could have died. Oh my God, she almost died. And she lived.
She lived.
And my mother lived. We all lived. And like, oh, I almost died. We almost had a wreck. We almost lived. And we're allowing the experiences of the past to continue to take us out of life. And when we will be with what we feel, whatever that feeling is, love the feeling. Come on, pain. Show me what you have to teach me. Let me love you so that I remember how much pleasure is here for me.
Yeah. Oh, beautifully stated.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so for everyone that's listening, so you can find Megan on her website, and she actually is working at a Ketamine Connect, and it is in Georgetown.
Yeah.
So we are in Texas, and you can contact her and find out more about what she's offering if you're living in the Austin, Williamson County surrounding area. And if you're somewhere else, she has other services that you can access as well. And jump in and explore kind of what's going on and what she's doing. If you found anything that you listen to that you resonate with, I always tell people, we don't have to have a complete plan of what we're going to do with it. We require taking the first step, like, wow, something in this excites me. Just going to send some information and I'm going to see where it goes. Because we always believe, oh, I don't know if I want to do the retreat or if I don't know that. We're creating these big, that's mental. And when our heart hears something and we jump in, then there's more for us. What it is, we'll discover as we walk through the journey. But the more we back ourselves out, I'm not sure. We're yet to be able to just, and so it takes great vulnerability and courage to be able to just take the first step of connecting to see why your heart lit up and what you get next.
Yeah.
That's
I love that. Yes.
It's the invitation.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us today, Megan. And we will connect again. And thank you. Stay right here. Let me get I'm choosing to remember how to change my screen.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh, no. Thank you. And
you are
find
welcome.
us on YouTube. Subscribe to Embody Coaches. We go live every Wednesday at 8:30.